All right, welcome back. This is the Event Organizers podcast. I am with Mark Koski, CEO of NFHS. That's the National Federation of State High School Associations. Mark, welcome aboard.
Thanks, Andy. Appreciate the time today, and thanks for giving us a few minutes on your great podcast.
Absolutely, man. Let's just get right to it. NFHS, what is it? Where are you guys located, and what are you guys up to?
Yeah, we get asked that question quite a bit in terms of, who is the NFHS and what's your role and so on. But the NFHS is the governing body for high school sports and activities throughout the country. We have 51 member state associations. And so how that works is that, of course, all 50 states plus DC, we have a state athletic or activities association office. So looking at in Colorado, so Colorado High School Activities Association, CHASA is kind of their name. Or looking, CIF in California, the California Interscholastic Federation. So we have 51 member state associations that really govern the rules in which we set at a national level. But the neat thing about that is that you start breaking all the way, from the state level down to the high school level, where we have 19,500 high schools fall under our direction or under our realm. But most importantly, we have 12 million student participants that we work for each and every day. High school student participants that are participating not only the traditional sports that we all know, but speech and debate, music, drama, band, anything within the after-school activity is what we're all about and how we promote. So that's who the NFHS is, National Federation of State High School Associations.
That's interesting, sure. And because I just learned something new. I thought you guys were specifically tied to sports, but you guys are beyond just athletics.
Definitely. Yeah. I say this all the time. So it's any after school activity within the school setting. So, all those crazy things you and I used to do after school. No, we don't want to promote that stuff. We want to promote the good things that are happening after school, but or within the school setting. So we work with all the coaches and, all those drama directors, but of course, all the sport coaches and so on. But there's about 1.5 million of those out there as well. And so as we create policy and direction, give them some ideas of ultimately how to be a better coach for these great students that hopefully are lifelong positive citizens and our leaders out there.
So you bring up a great point. So just because you are a high school that has after sports or after school activities doesn't necessarily mean you are an NFHS member.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So there's some states, I would say this, of the 19,500 high schools, okay, there's actually 23,000 high schools nationally. So you're looking at another, 3,500 schools that are not members of us. Okay. Those 3,500 schools might be new charter schools that popped up. So they wouldn't have like athletic programs or activity programs, maybe schools just getting off the ground and running. But pretty much every school that competes for a state championship event would be a member of the NFHS.
So let's get to the obvious topic here. We're having this conversation on May 21st. We're still in the middle of this coronavirus pandemic. You're the governing body of high school activities sitting here in Indianapolis, Indiana. But rules and regulations are all different state by state. How difficult has that been trying to be the governing body of all these associations when there's different rules applying based on where you're located?
No question. Andy, you and I were talking a little bit before this about how difficult it has been, from the national perspective to be able to work with all these individual states and now cities and so on. And you said it best, there's no playbook on what's happening right now at all. But if you look at a couple months ago, things were being set from the national level, from the president. And of course, what was policy, then of course we would go down to all states. Well, then eventually it turned it over to governors to handle. Now it's been turned over to local, mayors to handle. So, within a state, you might have, 4 different, start times, or, the city's going to open back up based upon, what's happening for that particular city itself. And so that has been just really, really difficult for us to be able to try to wrap our hands around and again, provide direction, because, we of course never can supersede, government, and so, as a one, city or one state has a policy that the one next to it has something totally different. And sometimes it could be, 6-8 weeks off. And so the concern is, when we get back to, sports and activities, starting in the fall, starting in August, is, how is that going to really play? Because, a lot of schedules have been set, look at, fall sports, and those schedules have been set. And sometimes, again, they're not only playing, folks in their city, they're playing, folks throughout the state. And so how is that going to change? But we sure are, hoping and praying, that over the next 4 weeks, more clarity is going to help us, and so that we can get these games and these events kicked off in August.
Well, and you bring up a really good point. I think about college athletics right now, and you see what's happening in the football landscape, where California is really cracking down and now saying USC is not going to be, schools like USC aren't going to be able to travel. They're going to cancel the game with Alabama. And so you've got, again, state by state, region by region, these decisions being made. And I know you guys are directly tied. In our conversation, you said you're directly tied to the NCAA, literally by a skywalk from one building to the next. You said August to get activities back and going again. What is the outlook that you guys are seeing right now? Are you guys pretty hopeful that there's sports activities and after-school activities are going to pick back up again?
Very much so. The NFHS, we just produced return to play guidelines almost about a week ago to offer state associations some suggestions on what they really need to be cognizant of as students are getting back to the gyms and, getting back to the fields to start playing. It's a little different sport by sport, being that, some sports that, hey, you are, it's just, you've tackled football, a lot different than volleyball or cross country, and so we have some guidelines for, states to consider. I always hate to use that term consider, because sometimes, at the national, you would hope that, we would be able to give them kind of concrete information, concrete, recommendations that they can use. But again, we go back to kind of these local governments and how that's, putting curveballs, on that. But we are very optimistic that the fall will kick off, so to speak, and those students on those cross country courses can run those races and compete, and most importantly, learn such a huge part of high school. Things that those coaches are teaching them, not only how to be a great cross-country runner, but ultimately how to be a future leader and lifelong positive citizen, which is our goal.
I love how you just said that, because it is so important with athletics. I was fortunate to play a little professional baseball in my past, but the percentage of athletes that actually move on from high school to college is small, and then from college onto the pro level is even smaller. Getting them prepared to be leaders in the business, in society, is as important, if not more important, than what their future athletic endeavors might look like. I want to ask you a question. I didn't prepare you for this one, but I'm really curious about your thoughts. You have kids, and so many of the kids in this generation growing up literally have had everything organized for them, right? These after-school activities have always been there. And literally in a moment, in one rule, in one law strike, that changed. There were no more organized activities. Are you seeing an impact emotionally, mentally on high school kids, young kids today, right now, because of that?
Yeah, no question. Yeah, in terms of, as you said, they've been, here's the thing. It's a different era now than it was when, we were playing, where they are spoon-fed. Everything is organized for them, ready to go. And then all of a sudden, boom, this thing hits, and they're looking around. What do we do? So schools, start scrambling, to do online learning, and how that's actually gonna play. And we got, again, kids that are been a part of that. They were in their athletic season. Boom, it stopped abruptly. They're used to jumping on that school bus or getting in that school day, and everything's all planned and structured for them. Now, all of a sudden, it's like, okay, well, Dad, what do we do? It's day one of quarantine. What do I do? I've got, 3 months left in this thing. And so, what's been, there's never been a sense, there's not a good thing about this thing. But what I see more is, I live in Carmel, Indiana, north side of Indianapolis, and I see more families outside walking than ever before, in terms of just tossing the ball and getting outside and doing things. I see, kids outside in their yards, playing and enjoying life a little bit, and so there's something to be said about, hey, there's this thing, to put out there to slow us all down, and put perspective a little bit on what, what we all are doing. I mean, kids are outside making up games before games are made up for them, in terms of given to them over this kind of this era. And so, this instant gratification society, I think that these students are in more so now than ever, has really had to, put them back and not in a bad way. I mean, of course, this whole situation, it's not positive. However, it's like, hey, let's try to find some positive things that ultimately will make these students and all of us stronger long term.
Yeah, no, you bring up, it's such a good point. I was having a conversation with my dad a few weeks ago, and he was a longtime baseball coach in the town I grew up in, Wisconsin. And he was, feeling bad. He was down for his grandson, my nephew, who's a freshman in high school, about to start the baseball season. It just got canceled. And I said, Dad, listen, we might actually have the greatest generation of kids come out of this because they now have to organize their fun again.
Great point.
Right?
Yeah,
and it's not
exactly.
just given to them. They actually have to create it again. And that's something you and I probably remember growing up with. Hey, get outside, go play. Nothing was organized, right?
And run around the block. And if we're still going crazy, run 4 more times, know? And so, I remember mom and dad saying that many a times. And I tell you what, that was great about our era. But I tell you what, to see again, these kids outside in their yards that you generally wouldn't see because they're so programmed and so structured. They're on these fields. Now all of a sudden, hey, they're making up games with their trucks and with sand and all that type of stuff,
awesome.
Which isn't necessarily a bad thing either.
So let's talk about the association itself, NFHS. You're the governing body, but you're overseeing how many different associations, state by state, county by county, municipality by municipality. Given that, you guys you have in summer meetings, you have winter meetings where you're bringing everybody together, which has been taken off the table for the time being. What are you doing as an organization, as an association, to make sure you're able to still connect with everybody and maintain that constant stream of communication?
Yeah, Andy, that's a great question. So, we're a typical association where, hey, we have this annual meeting every year. June 28th to July 2nd. This year, actually, we were slated to go to beautiful downtown Denver,
nice.
At the Hyatt Regency Denver there. We were slated to be there, and that's been an event that we've hosted literally for 100 straight years. We just celebrated our centennial this last year, so we're coming into the 101st year. We're going to kick off the new 100 years, and all excited. All of a sudden, this thing has been kind of hit us in the back of the head, so to speak, and so we have to find a way again to keep our environment the same, because I'd say some of these associations like ours, some of these folks have been coming for 100 years. You know what I mean? Like they've been like, this is what they know. This is a fraternity, it's a sorority that they all come together once a year. They know family. They've part of each other's lives, and so all of a sudden it's like we have been stopped. And so of course our folks are, what do we do? And so like most groups, we're jumping on a ton of Zoom calls and trying to keep, the association together as much as possible. I would say if that's, another kind of positive thing that's happened from this is that our folks have had to learn technology in a heartbeat, and they've had to get rid of their dial up and let's go to the fiber, but some of the folks, but it's been something that, hey, now I think we're almost communicating better, because we're forced to communicate differently. It's okay to, see each other's, backgrounds of their homes and their dogs run around in the back, because that, it just humanizes us a little bit and puts just a different element, behind people. And that's not a bad thing either, and sure, hey, we're looking forward to this time next year where, we'll be in our next city, which next year we're in Orlando for that event. But it took us back a little bit to make some changes, forced to make changes. I mean, I don't see us going to virtual conferences long term, I just don't. But I tell you what, I do see us as a group not jumping on as many airplanes, because now we've been taught to, how do we communicate, in a different way that's quicker. We're not going to the airport, not going through all the craziness of that, the cost expense involved, and so on. We do host another conference in the middle of December every year, the National Athletic Directors Conference, where all high school athletic directors come together. About 2,200 high school athletic directors throughout the country are there. And of course, that's still planned, be in the middle of December, and that's going to be in Tampa this year, which we're really looking forward to. And I just think, hey, our love and support, and, for one another is just going to be, a lot different now because, again, we've had to, come together through this, and we're all making it through it just fine, learning a lot of lessons behind it.
It's about humans connecting with humans. That's been such a huge positive outcome with this. So I got 3 questions left I want to ask you that I think one of my goals, Mark, is to give you the chance. I always want to find ways to help you guys promote your events. Now, right now, events are kind of off the hook, but you said, hey, we're still very hopeful. Our December event with the athletic directors is going to be on down in Tampa. We're going to be back at it next year in Orlando. For those that are part of NFHS or athletic directors out there that may not be attending those live events, what would you say is a reason they should? What are they missing by not being there?
No question. As much as it's great to have conversation via Zoom and so on, but there's so much. I mean, in terms of just the personal connection. You're sitting down and having a soda with someone or having some nachos with someone. I tell you that you can't replace that. With what we're doing here. So it's great. But having that social aspect and we ask our attendees all the time, why do you attend the conference? Is it for the programming? Is it for the sessions? Hands down to networking. They want to be able to have that networking that a lot of times, as we know, happens outside of a ballroom. So we love our general session speakers, and those are amazing. Those get us all fired up. But be able to sit down with a high school athletic director and ask he or she, hey, how did you do this in your city, or your town, and how did the parents react, and how did you deal with this official, complaint and so on? How did that actually, pan out for you? But having that, again, that social element where you can shake each other's hand, give each other a hug, hopefully we can get back to that. Is been very special behind our events. Like I said, our summer convention, 100 years these folks have been coming to this thing, and so that is a long time. And obviously I'm joking when I say they've come for 100 years, but I'll tell you what, some of them have been there 50 years, and so they are, eager to be able to see each other again and to see those, pictures of those kids in their wallet, and whether it be, their animals or their kids or whatever else. I mean, they know their background, they know their story, and it just helps them, behind the social aspect of it.
You just nailed it on the head. I mean, you can be a passive member in an association, but by not attending the live events, you're missing out on the energy. You're missing out on the connection, the networking, and there's nothing like live human networking versus you and I can network right now over this Zoom chat, but at the same time, it's not like being together, having a cup of coffee, grabbing a soda or a beer, and having a conversation.
100%, I agree. Yeah.
So if for another association out there, you're sitting at the top of a very large association that oversees 51 different state districts. What advice would you give another association right now, Mark, who might be struggling with the current environment and the lack of being able to see each other live, not sure what the future is going to look like? Any piece of advice you would give somebody in that position?
Yeah, actually, we talk a lot about this. Our executive director, Dr. Carissa Niehoff, just a phenomenal leader within high school sports and activities. She's been amazing. And we were talking about this, the other day in terms of, hey, as we work with these individual state associations, what can we do to help them as much as possible? And I think, all of us you're really just kind of coming together when it comes to this itself. And as we've had, big situations in the past with, 9/11 and a few others out there that have kind of, tried to separate us, but, it's brought us back even a little stronger. And maybe that's, kind of corny to say or whatever else. But I tell you what, I think if you rely upon your people long-term and you get them involved and you make sure that, hey, it's just not one office making those decisions, but it's a collective group as a whole that's deciding the next steps, and you give everybody kind of their input, so to speak. We do a lot of surveys and that type of stuff. And go with that 2/3 majority vote, with how we should move long term. I think, hey, you're getting your membership behind you. You're getting buy-in from them, and you're just not setting a policy that comes from a staff of 40 like we have in Indianapolis, but it's from your full membership collectively as a whole as much as you can. So
awesome. All right, my last question, my favorite one. You're in Indianapolis. I love that city. We talked about this before we jumped on here. if somebody's never been to Indy before, what's one reason they need to get there?
I tell you what, there's not only one, Andy. You kidding me? There's 100 reasons, but I tell you, I had the opportunity to sit on the Visit Indy customer advisory board for a number of years, and we talked, hey, what makes Indy different? Of course, that's always the question, that they all have. We're known as the racing capital of the world. We kind of all know that Indy 500, that's great, or whatever else. But really, what I love about Indianapolis, you've got Midwest mindset, no question. It's just big enough to be able to host a lot of events. We hosted the Super Bowl. We hosted, of course, Big Ten championships and the Indy 500, which has 400,000 people come on a race day, which is amazing every May, which we're going to miss that this year. It's been bumped to August, which is a good thing. So we hopefully keep those events rolling. But again, I think it's the people here are unbelievable. The downtown is really, it's a very, very clean downtown, a walkable city. Yep. You can go to any large sporting event that are all downtown compacted, and stay downtown, walk. They've even opened a policy for big game days that, hey, you can take your beer from place to place and walk Vegas style, So, but it's that camaraderie, I think, that it creates with that, in terms of, hey, you can have a group of buds that come for a weekend, enjoy a great game, but you have enough to do because it's compacted enough that you can walk everywhere you want to be, and plus beautiful airport and that type of stuff. And so, great town, but I'd say the people are amazing, and again, that Midwest feels is neat to be a part of.
That's awesome, man. I appreciate your time. If you're a high school, school district out there, an athletic director, and you haven't gotten yourself involved as much as you should with the NFHS, please go check it out. It sounds like an unbelievable organization. And so, Mark, just want to thank you for your time one last time.
Andy, thanks for what you do, and I can't wait to have you hopefully one day part of our events. Love to have you speak to our people.
That would be awesome,
and ultimately make us better, because as we hear these messages and we put them to life, we're affecting 12 million students every year, and that number of course changes because seniors leave, freshmen come, and so 12 million students each and every year. It's a big impact on.
That's a lot of impact. That's a lot of impact. Well, Mark Koski, CEO, National Federation of State High School Associations. You heard it from the man. Mark, thank you for your time. And if you're listening, enjoy this conversation. And please, please, please do yourself a favor. Go check out NFHS. Mark, thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Appreciate your time. We'll see you, bud.